Hey folks, it's Matt Rainwater here today, and I am going to we're going to talk about doing some drawing. Last video that I did, we walked through like what did we walk through? I was basically doing like tightening up pencils and then inking. And today I want to do something a little bit different, same but different. Previously we didn't we didn't walk through what I would call like loose pencils, basically. So in this panel that I have set up in Clip Studio, what you see right here, I'm gonna increase the opacity. These are all this right here on this page. These are thumbnails that I drew, like scribbled, basically, on like a notepad and a sketchbook. Just very loose drawings. When I'm story writing, I have very, very loose storyboards essentially. And I'll then just take a picture of those storyboards or those thumbnails and load them onto my templates for when I'm drawing Trailer Park Warlock. And so today I'm just going to draw this panel. That's what we're going to do when we hang out today. And I'm going to start. So I'm starting. This is actually like a pretty decent gesture. It gets pretty much everything that I want communicated. My only issue about this gesture actually is that, um, as you can tell, this character's arm goes into the bleed, which doesn't matter for webtoon, but it does matter for print. And I am ultimately making this story for both webtoon and print. So that presents certain challenges, and one of those challenges is you have to design for both. Not the easiest thing in the world. So I'm just to help myself out here, I'm decreasing the scale on that thumbnail before I start penciling in, and I'm gonna start on this character's face. This character is basically a vampire butler. I almost feel like I don't even need to. This I did a pretty good job on. Of course, I've drawn this character a lot at this point, so I have a pretty good idea of what he looks like, what I'm going for. I would usually like more do a little bit more of like roughing and structure, but I don't feel like I need it today, or at least for this panel. There are going to be other panels I'm going to draw. Like this one right here, I'm definitely going to be doing um, more structural drawing to get a better idea of the pose. But for this one, there's not a whole lot going on. I think once we start getting to drawing his arm, I'm probably going to be doing that. Probably start drawing some cylinders and stuff to get a better idea of form and how it's all going to fit together. All right. So right now and the pose for this is, here's how I would describe the direction of the panel is that of the shot is that this character is looking up at something like on the ceiling in a large stadium, and he is thinking about an errand or a chore he's going to need to do in the future. So I'm trying to give him sort of a thoughtful, or not necessarily thoughtful, more like contemplative sort of pose. Sort of thought of like, oh, right, I need to do that later on. And I'm purposefully making his eyes hidden in this panel behind his glasses to obscure to sort of indicate that I'm obscuring what he's thinking. All right, so I wanted to draw that hand, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, let's see, do some adjustments here. This jacket, his coat, his overcoat. Make his arms thinner. I think his arms are actually a little thick for his character design. Okay. Trying to draw this collar out. And he's got can't remember what it's called. It's not an ascot. I knew the name for it and I've forgotten it. It's that really froofy, doily type thing. The word's gonna come to me later. I just don't have it on me right now. It's very annoying. For some reason I think it starts with an F. If you know the answer to this question, leave it in the comments, please. It's kind of bugging me that I can't remember what the name of this article of decorative clothing is called. Actually, not into how that's looking. All right, that's better. One more. All right. Oh, do something real quick. Don't want to snap to the special ruler. Okay. All right, and then I'm gonna go a layer beneath and just draw in the structure because I want to have his shoulder, because I want to really think through this pose to make sure I'm actually doing it correctly. All right, so that would be where his wrist would be. So I want to start drawing his hand. Here's where I feel like I'm going to encounter an issue. I basically want him to be like adjusting his glasses, and the space just feels a little bit crammed, like it's not going to communicate well. That's what I'm concerned about. Either the hand is too big, or the arm is too long, or just maybe the pose is also not working. But I think it can work. It seemed like it worked in the thumbnail. I don't see why it shouldn't be able to work. As I draw it more concretely, I just need to think about this hand. All right, so let's think about it. Let's break it down a little bit more. I want his index finger to be touching his glasses. I want us to be able to see his thumb. So there's this pinky, ring, middle. His thumb doesn't really show up. It doesn't quite work. does it? Almost looks like it could be picking his nose. I don't know. Yeah, like if I did... Yeah, that doesn't really work. So... If this feels like it should be able to work, right? Like that's how I feel. I feel like it should be able to work. But what's missing is that I think the fact that we can't see the thumb, his thumb, makes it difficult to communicate this pose, and maybe I'll have to rethink it. Okay. Maybe he doesn't have to be adjusting his glasses. What if we change that? What if, for instance, let's try a different pose. What if that just, I don't want him to do the whole chin thing. This is a sticky wicket, my friends. All right. You could do an arms. No, not that. All right. Let's try something a little more extreme. So that's going to be index finger, thumb, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger. This just seems very... seems awkward. Oh, what if... Okay, hold on though. I feel like I was on the right track. So like, what if... What if it was more like a... You know, I feel like part of the problem, maybe it's just the angle. Or... I might have to change his expression a little bit. Let's try this out. All right. Hold on, y'all. I'm going to try an idea. This might work. I'm just going to think about... That looks like he's really picking his nose, though. So that finger needs to not be so long. I'm having a really hard time with this one, y'all. Okay. I'm going to try this a couple more times, and then I may have to just totally redraw this panel. is what I'm thinking. Because essentially what's happening right now is I'm kind of in a bit of a block because the way his nose is shaped, it just makes it difficult for me to do what I was originally trying to communicate with this hand. It just doesn't, I feel like it just doesn't, it's not clear what he's doing. It's not clear that he's adjusting his glasses. You can't really see his hand. Like I just feel like it's not working. And I could just not do that at all. I was just trying to find some other contemplative pose that I could use for him. I'm having the damnedest time. I don't know. Let's try this. Let's see how that works. Maybe it will work better than I think. It just feels sassier, I guess. Which isn't like outside of this character's realm. It's just, I think of him as being a little bit more reserved than that. But maybe considering the event, oh, that's just an awkward angle though. I am really tempted at redrawing this panel entirely. I'm getting pretty close to it, y'all. Because, okay, I could just do this. But I feel like it doesn't communicate enough. Like, I feel like it's not saying enough about what the character is thinking. I'm trying to really, like, he's going to be saying something in this panel, but I really want to get across some kind of emotional state through his physical gesture, too. So I think I'm just going to start over. Do not normally do this. But it's my first panel of the day. So inevitably with first panels, there's a certain amount of trial and error. I'm going to try something new. All right. I'm going to refer. Okay. It means I'm going to have to change the shot kind of entirely. I'm going to use the whole scene to communicate my point. I'm referring back to my thumbnails in the page prior, just to make sure that everything is within context. I'm basically just doing another thumbnail. All right. This is going to be quite a little journey because I'm also like, well, maybe I just need to go back to what I was doing prior. Maybe. We might end up doing that still. But I do want to like mess around with other possibilities. Other shots that I wasn't considering previously. How about that? Let me see. What is the actual dialogue? I have to refer often to the dialogue. I'll have to remember to put in an order for a replacement light. Okay. Arm seems too long. So I'm shortening it. That seems too short. Too long, too short. But this is also slightly foreshortened. Since we're looking at this character from above. So, just be kind of a... I'm gonna exaggerate that a little bit. All right. Let's see. I don't know if I'm exaggerating that too much. Feels like it's over exaggerated. Like I feel like once I start going further into pencils and inks, it's gonna look weird if I continue on that track. So what I'm gonna do too is I'm actually gonna move this character up. Just a little bit. Just trying to make sure all of this is going to make sense. All right. Excuse me. Next thing, I think it seems a little off kilter. So I'm just going to adjust this placement just a tad. All right. looks good. So that would be the thumbnail. Just gonna adjust a couple other things. Put in some things just to remind myself that there are some rocks. This setting, which I will extrapolate on more in a little bit. Okay. Next, I'm going to actually decrease the overall size of this panel, or this picture, like this thumbnail. That was the wrong one. Wrong layer. So I want to make sure there's ample enough space for dialogue. Okay, so that's our thumbnail. Make a new layer. And I'm going to do rough drawing over that. Oh, these first panels are always difficult. I'm not doing as often as I used to, where I would warm up, which I really should have done before I did this, but oh well, too late now. I warm up by doing some automatic drawings, doodles, just, you know, to kind of like get myself feeling a little bit more spry in my hands and in my mind. I didn't do that today, so feel like I'm suffering a little bit for it, but that's okay. Sometimes we goof up like that. You know, you learn to deal with it. Next time I'll make sure before I record with y'all that I do my art stretches. Okay, so just drawing in his hand. I want his chin to poke out just a little bit. Still feel like this is awkward looking though. Some way. All right, shoulders, arms here. This might be one of those panels where I actually go, where I do 2 rough takes. Like, I'm probably going to end up refining this line art at least twice before I finally start inking. I usually try and keep it down to have a gesture, then have a rough drawing, and then ink over the rough drawing. But this is proving to be such a difficult panel that it's going to probably require an additional pass. Because there's just certain things that I feel like need to be refined better before I finalize it. Drawing in those shoes. Glasses. Hair. My main issue right now is just with the hand and this arm. There's just something going on about it that it just doesn't look very good. So I guess what I'll do about this and go here below and draw in some cylinders. See if that helps me think it through. I'm having such a hard time with that particular part of this pose. Well, that looks better. All right, so now the hand. Like, I feel good about where that finger is placed. That thumb looks okay. But what didn't feel right was the hand placement. Still doesn't really feel 100%. I'm actually doing the pose right now, and I'm noticing, no, that doesn't seem good either though. So I can try adjusting where the thumb is. Already makes the pose more readable. Okay, that does look better. It's not perfect, but it does look better. It's a bit more stage. It has a bit more of a stagey look to it, which is okay. Not exactly what I wanted, but kind of at that point where it's like, well, I've spent so much time on this pose, I might as well just stick with it if it works. Because I only have so much time that I can commit. Okay, so I'm actually going to do another pass. And see if there's anything else that comes up while I'm working through drawing this character. I'm going to decrease the line width to see if that helps me too. Just one of those panels. You just have, just having a hard time with it. And sometimes when you have compositions you're drawing where you're just having a hard time with it, sometimes all you can do is just kind of chip away at it and add additional phases to the process to work it through, think it out, see what comes up each step you take. See if anything changes. Which I'm sure y'all can see right now, a couple things are changing. Really subtle, some of it really subtle, some of it maybe not as subtle. But I always have a difficult time. I mean, not always, but I often, if I find something to be challenging, it's probably because it's like a subtle acting pose that I have to really think through all the small details of the body position and the body posture. And I mean, literally just having this character go, and that just, it takes a little bit of time to work through it. Doing it at an odd angle, an angle that I don't often draw from. So that also adds complication to it. Yeah, originally when I had thought out this panel and thumbnail in the thumbnail stage, I was like, oh, I'll make it a simple panel. And it actually doesn't seem like it served me very well because I just couldn't communicate. I wasn't able to say what I wanted to say in that panel. So I'm ending up with this, which is more involved. Does that work? This looks odd. Let's see. I felt like the angle of his hand, like the angle of the wrist was like too extreme. Okay, well that's what I'm gonna do. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna change it up. See how much though this panel's changed completely from when I started, and it isn't always like that. It is that way for this panel. Especially as I'm thinking it through so thoroughly. Back on track. What a journey. There we go. Drawing the buttons here. Put in details. This character also in particular has something of a more complicated character design. I'm drawing him from an odd angle, but this is his basic design. And it's a little bit complicated to draw from like angles that are more three-dimensional, and I feel like that becomes really obvious in this panel. I think something that's going on is that the way that something about the way that I've drawn him isn't 100% working. Okay. It's actually an incredibly frustrating panel to draw. This has been an incredibly frustrating panel for me. That's all right. Okay, so I'm going to move on to drawing this cat. Cat's a lot easier. Like way easier. That's basically all I need to do. All right, here we go. Almost think I'm going to be ready to do some inking in a little bit. The angles of the ears are weird. Okay. Just gonna draw some smoke and dust. This wall right here. Alright, I think I can do the rest of that just in inks. Okay. Oh my goodness, y'all. I'm already exhausted. I'm already exhausted from that. I'm going to actually start with inking in the smoke because it's easy and fun and breezy. And so I'm actually using a different pen for the smoke. It's the Spotty Inker Brush Less Texture. Oh, there's one with more texture? I just noticed that. I'm going to see what it looks like. I'm curious. Oh, that's a little too much. All right. Cool. I do enjoy a lot of the brushes available in Clip Studio, and I actually, by suggestion of my friend Ron Chan, I ended up buying a package of custom-made brushes. I think they're called the Friendin brush package. I know the Friendin person makes more than just like one brush package. I can't quite remember which brush package it was, but it was a great purchase. I know also know like with Clip Studio you can make your own custom brushes. I have not messed around with that stuff yet. I intend to at some point in the future. But for now, these brushes work really well, and I use at least 3 of them fairly regularly. And I think it cost only like $15 for the whole package. And it was like, I want to say it was like 50 brushes. It was a pretty good purchase. So, I don't know. Should his nose be pointing up? That suggests that he's looking up, which I want him to do. Second guessing myself. It's really the worst enemy of like any working artist is just like self-doubt and second guessing. All right. I'm actually gonna make the brush smaller because I feel like that line is just a little too thick. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to make it thicker by 5 points. Really, I gotta be really honest with y'all today. I feel like I'm fighting this panel. I feel like I'm like, which sucks. Like it's not the best place to be when you're creating, is to feel like you're fighting with what you're making. It's not a fun feeling. but that's where I am. I feel like I'm really fighting with it, trying to make everything come together. Hopefully the rest of my pages won't feel that way, but for this panel, that is the case, unfortunately. All right. All right, I need to save, and I am noticing that my computer is running out of battery power. So I'm going to plug in my computer real quick. I can't tell y'all how many hours of work I've lost because I forgot to plug in my computer. I use a Wacom Cintiq Companion. It's a refurbished model. It's been a really good computer for the most part. It started off a little bumpy because when I first got it, the power charger for it wasn't working, and I thought like, oh no, the computer's broken. Like I got a bad computer. But no, it was just the power charger. And that happened twice. I had 2 power chargers just go bad on me. And it turned out, I think it was the way that Wacom had been designing those power chargers, because after that, the next power charger I got was totally different. Or not totally, it was a different design. So I think that fixed the issue for the most part. Because I haven't had that problem in years now, so at some point I am probably going to get a new one, but hopefully not for another couple of years, just because I really can't afford it right now. I will probably, the next computer I get will probably be another Cintiq Companion. I know I've heard people talk about like the Windows Surface Pro. Unless it's like drastically gotten better, I'm not really into it. I have been really enjoying the products that Wacom puts out. I find that their tablets tend to be pretty good for the most part. Even, random driver issues aside, once they get working, they work pretty well. Like I have really increased my productivity having this computer. It has streamlined like so much of my workflow in so many different ways. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Don't have too many complaints about it. At some point I wouldn't mind doing like getting a desktop and then getting like one of those big ol' Cintiq monitors to draw on. That would be cool. But I think that's a little bit off in the future for me at this time. It's really bugging me that I cannot remember what the name of this thing is. Is it a frock? Is that what it's called? I think it's called a frock. Okay, almost done with this character. Oh, just fighting that line. Almost a bare knuckle brawl. But it gets easier as I start to fill the panel come together. Feeling a little less pressure. Feeling a little less like, oh, this is just repeated failure, blah, blah, blah. All that nonsense that goes on in my head. Alright, draw this little bobcat tail. That line was to suggest the form of the other back leg. Okay, then front of the head. Little ear whiskers. Spots in the fur. Oh gosh, folks, we did it. It was a hard time getting there, but we did it. Just moving that tail aside a little bit. Didn't seem like it was quite right. Okay. Now I'm going to draw in the ground and some rocks and be done. Then I'll have 9 more panels to draw. Hopefully they will all go smoother than this panel. Actually started a little bit late on work today because I ended up watching more than the normal amount of episodes of shows that I usually allot myself in the morning before I start work. I've been watching the show on HBO streaming called The Righteous Gemstones. I wasn't actually that into it when I first started it, but as the story progresses and as you get to know the characters more, it's a pretty good show. There's a lot going on in it. I'm enjoying the themes of it. I like that the show does not veer away from sort of the ugliness of these characters while at the same time finding the good sides of them too. There's a surprising amount of like heart to the show. It's a really odd show. It's not as, I don't know, like it's humorous. It's a humorous show, but like it's not as funny as I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be more satirical, and it's actually more like given the subject matter, because it's a show that's basically about like a family televangelist family. I'm assuming in the South. I don't actually know. I have no clue. I'm assuming the South just because everybody has like a Southern accent in the show. But I haven't seen any direct details of like where in the South it is. My guess is Tennessee or Georgia. Probably Tennessee, like Tennessee or Kentucky area. Like there have been shots that I've seen that have had like Appalachian type settings. There's like some hills and some mountains and some waterfalls, etc., etc. Anyway, I recommend the show. It's pretty good. There's some really great acting in it, some interesting writing, some good characters. If you're looking for a show that's going to be like, I don't know, like hypercritical of televangelist churches, I don't think this is going to be that show, at least not in the way that I was expecting. I feel like it's actually a little more nuanced, or at least like it doesn't make that subject up front in regards to directly criticizing it. It's more like the backdrop of the show, and it treats the subject matter seriously. And I wasn't entirely expecting that, and the way that the show does it, actually, I find to be really effective. It's pretty good. Like, I think probably the most humorous parts of The Righteous Gemstones the most humorous parts that I find about it is that in a lot of ways this televangelist family is almost like a mob family in the way that they operate, and I find that to be like an interesting analogy to make. And I mean, in a lot of ways, basically the show is kind of like it's kind of like a mob family show, sort of like John Goodman's character really kind of plays like kind of the godfather essentially of this family, the Don, and yeah, you'll just, if any of this intrigues you, sounds interesting, I highly suggest you check it out if you have HBO Now or whatever. I give it a shout out. If you have a couple hours to twiddle away. And if you don't, that's okay. It's just entertainment, right? Anyway, I think I'm done with this panel. I'm done drawing this panel. I think that's good. I'm going to call it as far as this video goes. Thanks, y'all, for joining me. Thanks for sitting with me through it. We did it. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.